Welcome to the Microscopists, a bite-sized bio podcast, hosted by Peter O'Toole, sponsored by Zeiss Microscopy. Today on the Microscopists.
Today on the Microscopists, I'm joined with Christian Eggeling from the Institute of Photonic Technologies in Jena. Christian recently moved from Oxford to Jena, and we hear about the difficulties of assembling a new lab and team during a global pandemic.
I mean, there were a couple of people that joined my lab mid-February. We had the first lockdown in Germany in begin March or something like this. It was difficult. And let's be honest, you are sometimes more a psychologist than a scientist in this area.
We hear about how Brexit affected his decision to move to Germany.
We said, let's wait for the Brexit vote. And it's not the reason. It's not the reason why I moved to Germany. But I'm always saying it did not help.
And on a lighter note, we discuss some sci-fi show recommendations and hear about his favourite TV shows and films.
One is Big Lebowski, and the other one is Pulp Fiction. That's my new favorite ones. And I had people, like also Erden sometimes, we try to communicate in sentences of Big Lebowski. And you can do that. You can do a whole communication only with sentences from Big Lebowski.
All in this episode of The Microscopists. Hi, welcome to this episode of The Microscopists. I'm Peter O'Toole from University of York, and today I'm joined by Christian Eggeling from University of Jena. Christian, how are you today?
I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm chat with you in this nice format here. I've seen a couple of this before, and I'm glad that I'm part of this as well. So.
Oh, well, thank you for finding the time. I know it's been a crazy time for you, and that's balancing teaching with research and all the other commitments that
yeah, come with exactly. And that all in these times when I changed from Oxford back to Germany, and mainly due to private reasons. But Jena is a good environment, as we know, for microscopy. So I'm there at the university and at the Leibniz Institute. And the Leibniz Institute is this Photonic Technologies. I mean, Rainer is there as well, Rainer Heinzmann. So, and it's a good microscopy environment, but also a good environment to do biology, because there are a lot of good clinics, good biomedicine and stuff like this. But I still had my group. So I switched to Jena. As usual, labs are not ready. So I kept all my people in Oxford. My team was so good in Oxford, and they just kept on running. And then, as it goes, I mean, we all know Corona came, and then it was impossible. I haven't been in Oxford for 2 years. So the last time I was there was, begin March 2020, and after that, traveling was impossible mainly. And the next time I was there was in March this year. That's the first time. And I even didn't fly. We picked up a microscope there. So I told two of my guys who have been actually with me in Oxford and now work with me in Jena, let's get a van, drive to Holland, night ferry, went over to Oxford, had a couple of nice days in Oxford, met all the old people, got in the microscope. I had some meetings with people there to organize things, and then we drove back. That was a fantastic trip. I really loved that. So, and they enjoyed it as well. And all the people that were still left in there in Oxford. And kind of, this was for me a farewell in Oxford, because all the old people came together and so on. And a lot of people, as you know, I mean, there's
a lot of
groups disassemble, and they are now everywhere in the world and so on. Today, I talked to one of my postdocs. He's now in Istok. He's now in Ljubljana. I just talked to him earlier this day. Erden, my great postdoc in Oxford, he's now in Karolinska in Stockholm. And one of the postdocs, Marco Fritsche, he's now leading the biggest facility in Oxford and pushing his own science. So
it's good. It's good. Your children are going out there, Christian.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're building up new stuff here, but building up a new lab in Corona times, I don't advise anybody to do that, because it's really difficult. We just were about that the labs get going, and then bam, everything closes down, and you can't reach anybody, and you can't proceed anything. And the first weeks.
How is the team collegiality, as in because you're assembling a new team, so you're going to have new PhDs, new postdocs. How have they bonded? Because of coronavirus, it's actually, I've certainly found people who are coming over Corona, they don't have the same network, the same friendships, the same feel for the rest of the team members.
Very difficult. And I have to say that, I mean, there were a couple of people that joined my lab mid-February. We had the first lockdown in Germany in begin March or something like this. It was difficult. And and let's be honest, you are sometimes more a psychologist than a scientist in these areas, because I don't blame, and I think we can all say that from ourselves, that we did not have bad times during these 2 years of Corona, because science as we used to have it and wasn't going on, and we all know, and I think that is what we realized. Oh, it's a lot about communication, isn't it? And that was completely dead, of course. And there were also exciting times trying to get the teaching going on online, and that was exciting as well. But you realized after a while something is missing.
So you say it's difficult times and some exciting times, but I seem to recall, correct me if I'm wrong, when you were in Oxford, you were still commuting back to Germany on a frequent basis. Yes. How frequently were you going back to Germany?
I'm not a good climate person back then. These years, every weekend.
Every weekend, and that's for family, I presume, wife, children.
Yeah, 2 children. I have 2 children, and they were pretty young at the beginning. Well, we planned to move all there, but my one daughter was pretty sick back then. She didn't get along in England at all, and so we decided for them to stay in Germany, and that was a tough time. And I already said yes, and it's so exciting, and for me, doing something in Oxford, building up the microscopy, there was such an opportunity, and then we agreed, okay, let's try to get this done, yeah, and it was doable, and we even thought, yeah, why now my daughter developed, she got better, and then we thought moving them to Oxford. Then we said, yeah, let's wait for the Brexit vote, yeah, and it's not the reason, yeah, it's not the reason why I moved to Germany, but I'm always saying it did not help. Let's say it like this, yeah? And then I got the good offer in Jena, and then with the Brexit, we just said, come on, it's very unfortunate. I mean, science is so much connecting and so on. And I had such a great time in Oxford, and all the people there are so international, but also all the English people. I love them. And that's why I also wanted to do this in England, because my brother, he did his PhD at Imperial, and we visited him so often, and he had such a great time there. And we had such a great time with him there. And unfortunately, my brother died later on of cancer. And it was my twin brother. And that's also one reason when I got this offer from Oxford. Somehow I felt, and it was in a biomedical environment where I could help with my imaging, cancer research, and so on. I had a good motivation to do that.
No, so before, what was your degree in? Let's start way back. What was your first degree in?
Physics. I studied physics. I studied physics in Hamburg. Hamburg is the city of particle physics, everything, yeah, because they have this big accelerator there, the DAISY, and so on. But then I realized, oh man, even I think already in the 3rd semester, they started to give special lectures on particle physics. And I just thought, I don't want to go that deep into that. And then I went to Göttingen. And in Göttingen, it was more broad. There's all kinds of biophysics was there already, physical chemistry. And then I stayed in Göttingen, and I did my diploma back then there, or master, and I stayed as a PhD there as well, because I remember this today. I was looking for diploma work, and I was kind of specializing a little bit also on physical chemistry, fluorescence, and stuff like this.
Yeah.
I was looking for people, and then somebody said, "Hey, go up to this Max Planck Institute. There is somebody very new. Yeah, he's definitely looking for somebody." And that was Klaus Seidel. I don't know if you look, Klaus Seidel. Community knows him. I mean, and Klaus welcomed me, he liked me, and that's why I started my diploma work with Klaus Seidel. And at the beginning, he wanted to do something completely different with me. He wanted to investigate how DNA bases change the fluorescence lifetime of different dyes. Yeah, so we can use it as, there was back then the idea of using individual fluorophores for identifying a DNA basis for sequencing, which in principle has been proceeded later on, yeah, by some companies.
Yeah.
And but then he realized, let's do single molecule stuff. There's so much cool stuff going on. And I remember as a student, I thought, single molecules, looking at the individual molecules on a microscope, never, ever. And I remember we went also to conferences, and back then the big single molecule guys were these guys from Alamo there, yeah, from the US, Dick Keller and stuff like this. And he in one of his first early reviews, I read this thing. It's not a problem to see a single molecule with fluorescence. It's just important to reject the background. Yeah, just like a star. Yeah, we can see if everything is dark. Yeah, so that's why if we go in the nature, sky is just wonderful. But if we go into this big city, we don't see anything. Yeah, and that's exactly like this. And I still remember this sentence from Dick Keller. Great guy. Did these all things. And that was an exciting time back then. And then we realized, okay, there are these single molecule techniques like fluorescence correlation spectroscopy. And even during my diploma time, my master thesis, Stefan Hell already sent me 6 weeks to Stockholm to work with Rudolf Riegler on FCS, yeah, because it was the big FCS lab in Europe back then, yeah? And there I met great people like Jerker Widengren, yeah, back then, big FCS guy, who just finished his PhD, yeah? And there were other people like Ulo Metz. He's now back in Estonia. I've never seen such an experimental guy. Unbelievable, very, very good. I learned so much. And I remember they of course sent me there in November and December. Going to Stockholm in November and December is dark. I made a joke. Yeah, you blink your eyes and you miss the bright. So, but it was good. I learned a lot. I had a great time. I learned FCS, and look at me now. I would say one of my big topics is still FCS, and to combine it in different ways and drive it in different ways and so on. So that's why I have to be thankful a lot with Klaus Seidel back then. I learned a lot of things from him, and that's why I decided to stay with him. And I did my PhD with him. Lots of single molecule stuff. We did a lot of photo bleaching studies. Everybody is interested in photo bleaching, but nobody wants to do these studies. You know? And I just had a discussion this morning because we again have a small project where we look on photo bleaching of dyes. I don't know if you've heard about this photo bluing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know,
a lot of photo bleaching is going photo bluing. That's what we do. So it's great.
Christian, after this, we'll go into some more detail on that because I've got some questions on it.
Okay, perfect.
Well, I'll take it out of this bit and bring it through. So you mentioned Stefan Hell there as well. So you spent time with Stefan also.
Yes, I did.
What's he like to work with?
What's that?
Everyone knows Stefan. What's he like to work with?
Yeah, but first, maybe I tell a little bit more how I got to Stefan Hell. Because
go for it.
Because at the end of Klaus Seidel's time, I somehow felt tired, and there was close connection to a biotech company, and that was Evotech. And Evotech used fluorescence spectroscopy techniques, especially single molecule like FCS and so on, to do high throughput screening. So I went there and I worked for 2 years there. Great time as well. I lost my fear about biology and so on, because I had to work a lot with biologists to get the assay working and discuss with them, how can we analyze this? And so great time. But then after 2 years, because it was always project driven, and we scientists, we want to look right and left, you know. Wasn't possible because there was so much where I thought, oh, I would love to look at this or this, but it wasn't, of course, because it's project driven and so on.
Yeah, of course, commercial.
And then I remember I was living back then with my girlfriend, now wife, and I told her, academic, where do I go? And I made a list of different people. Yeah? And one of these people on that list was Stefan Hell, because I knew him. He just started at the Max Planck Institute, where I did my PhD before I left. Yeah, so in my last years of Klaus Seidel. So we knew each other. And he was one of the first persons on my list. I was about to call him. And then one night, the phone rings. My girlfriend picks up and says, it's Stefan Hell. So Stefan Hell called me and he asked me, Christian, do you know anybody who would be interested in FCS and driving it maybe into super resolution and so on? And I said, well, maybe I bring in my name. And he said, well, I didn't want to ask directly. And that's how I got to Stefan.
Yeah, of course.
and then we started with Stefan. And that was back when he was just a few years after he was becoming a director at the Max Planck Institute, and the possibilities we had there was great. And I and Stefan got along very well. I would say he was my best boss I've ever had. It was a great time because we respected each other a lot. I knew, yeah, what I had from him, and he knew what he had from me, and that's just, we were a good team, yeah, and it was a fantastic time. That's why I stayed there over 8 years. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, that was such a fantastic. I remember when I went to his place, that was back in 2004 or so. Some people told me, "Don't go there; it will never work." So, and we got it to work. I mean, and that was a great time. And back then, I mean, this was the early days of super resolution. If you had a new idea, yeah, and you realized it, you got it published, and that motivated everybody. Yeah, and of course, a lot of these ideas we didn't proceed further, but still, so fantastic time, and that in the environment of Stefan, who was giving us a lot of freedom. It's excellent. It's very, very nice.
I think that was a good. The last bit you just said, that it gave you a lot of freedom, so he enabled you to research.
Yes, but I mean, every research. So I was kind of the person in the middle, yeah, who was taking care of a lot of PhD students, also postdocs or master students. Of course, every project had a clear guideline who was also discussed with us and so on. And Stefan's ideas were in there as well and so on. Clearly, yeah. But then realizing it, yeah, how we realized it and so on. Yeah, we had a lot of freedom, and that was good. And then discussing it with Stefan, he always had then the very good ideas, and so it was a very constructive environment. I thinking back on that time, we also had a very good team back then. I mean, a lot of the guys, of course, they ended up at Iberia and so on, but it was fantastic teams. I mean, some people who now moved on and been part of that time back then, they said, "Oh, these were the golden times," because they enjoyed it as well. It was a very, very good time.
Actually, that's one of the questions I was going to ask. When was the best time in your career so far? When would you say was the most? If you could,
I mean, the time I had so much good times. In my PhD time with Klaus, when we got it all running, it was a great time because we had so many ideas and we could follow them up. It was great. Evotech was also good. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot, and it was a fantastic time there as well because we were a lot of young people there and so on. And then with Stefan, I mean, you can see that this super resolution time at the beginning and this excitement that was going on. Of course, at some point it got political. Clearly, we can talk about this later. Of course, it got political because people realized, hey, this could get a Nobel Prize, and then it got a little bit, yeah, very political. But that's normal. I mean, that's how it goes. But then my Oxford team, yeah, such a good team, unbelievable. I mean. Now seeing it all disassemble was a great time. It was such a good unity, and people worked together, and especially because I was in Jena building up things, so I was only there once a month. Still, it worked, yeah, because it was a team, and that was great. And now in Jena, I see it picking up again, and it's getting there. So, Corona was. You asked before, how was it with the team? Yeah, of course. How do you build up a team in Corona times? Yeah. And I remember the first retreat we could do, which was last summer. Yeah, it was so relaxed, and people were enjoying it so much because we could go out as a team. We went rafting. Yeah, it was one of the rivers, and it was so great. We stayed out late at night and so on.
I'm sure you sent me a picture.
Yeah, of the rafting. Yeah, we did. There it is. Yeah.
There you go.
Where we just started the rafting. Yeah. And that was begin September last year, and this was the real first road trip that we could do as a group together. And you can see we were relaxed, and we really enjoyed it.
That's a huge group. If that's a new group,
it is the group. There's also we got a junior professor in there as well. Christian Franke, who used to be PhD student with Markus Sauer, and then he moved on as a postdoc to Dresden, and now he's with us. And his team, it's great to have him there. So and we in principle we are one team. Yeah, we work so closely together. So,
you did send a few pictures of the team. I presume this is
also, yeah. This this is sometime other that this was late at night. So you see in the left upper corner. you see Christian Franke, but otherwise here in the mid and in the front there's Pablo, one of my great postdocs. In the background behind me there's Francesco, also back postdoc who was with me already, PhD in Oxford. So Darina is there as well. She was with me in Oxford as well. So a few people moved along.
So this may be the same night. You sent quite a few pictures of this. So I only picked out a few. So you
No, this is Oxford. This is Dominic Wade. This was the.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, that's Dominic. You must know Dominic from Oxford.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Dominic was great. See, also the facility in Oxford with Chris Lagerholm, Dominic Wade, and so on. And we had fantastic co-managers over the years. Fantastic time. It was, and Chris and I were just a good team. Yeah, we relied completely on each other. We could rely on each other. And he knew my backup when he needed it, and otherwise I knew he's going to take the right decisions.
I will say,
the same with Dominic. I mean, what a wonderful guy. Yeah. So,
before we go off this picture, I did notice that actually someone then photobombed.
That's Erdős. Erdős was the fun guy in the group, but he was also one of the most productive guys here. Yeah, this is there we laughed and then we had some drinks, and I think there's this other picture where we just
yeah I have it. So I love it. You sent so many pictures of the lab drinking.
Yeah.
And then here you are at the start of the night, and I presume the next picture for those who are listening.
That's later, but it was just a fun picture. But we picked ourselves
and now
a few hours
both
later.
on desk. Yeah, I can see the way you got your arms folded. You are still
exactly. But this was in Oxford, and I enjoy always the pubs in Oxford. But we enjoy now the stuff in Jena as well. So I think this is one of our group events in. This is Oxford, I think. This is Oxford.
Yes.
Because somebody sent me a lot of Oxford pictures, and that's why there were so many fun pictures there from Oxford times.
But so you obviously got this warm side. Your team's got a good team spirit. You're going out drinking, but then where on earth are you here? This
is last year. Actually, this is our first 3-day retreat from a Jena group, and we went to some mountains south of Jena. Yeah, and it looks
cold.
And winter kicked in again. And the next day, actually, it was that pile of snow in that area. And we went for a hike to a small waterfall, and we enjoyed it there. We had a lot of drinking and a lot of seminars, and we did a good mix of science and so on. And everybody presented themselves. Yeah. Then we had some discussions about communications and so on. But I didn't organize it. It was my group organizing it, and they said, hey, this is how I picture communication. I could jump in and say, hey, we could tune it this way. And we had a group discussion about it. And I remember it was not a fancy place or something like this. And opposite to the seminar room, it said disco. And I said, disco, I have to look into the room. So it was a very old fashioned disco room. It had this ball underneath the sign on it. And I said, hey, one night we just have to have a disco here. We have to have a dancing. And the last night we just danced until, I don't know, very late in the morning. And that's what you need to bring a group together. But of course you need a boss who also is open to this.
I was going to ask the importance of the retreats. And I think you said that just at the end, that it brings the group together, and that means they'll work better together in the lab, it'll be more efficient, but they'll think more freely.
Exactly. And I think that's what my people like. And that's how the feedback, at least I get from my group. And that's why they enjoy it so much, because I treat everybody with respect, no matter who it is. I try to treat them with respect. And second is, I try to motivate them, but I also try to give them a lot of freedom. And sometimes I know, okay, they want to go this route. I know it's not gonna lead to the result, but sometimes people need to experience that. And if I know, okay, it's only gonna take a couple of days until they realize that, and usually it does. And that's why, and I think that motivates people as well, when they realize themselves, they get the ideas themselves. And that's what I try to get. That's how I don't control it much. Of course, some people need controlling. Yeah. So people like that, they are wrong in my group, because I don't control, I don't have the time. Yeah? But I also, I want the people to develop own ideas.
So how have you coped when you've had someone, I don't know names, whatever, that needs controlling, that they need more advice. They need
then I try to meet more often, but I try to give them confidence so that they get.
But you must have failed in some case.
I failed. Of course I failed in cases. Everybody fails.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
How do you cope with that?
And I had some people, we just didn't fit together. And then we realized, okay, we need to separate. And then we separated, but we went our ways. That person went this way and it worked. So at the end, also, we got something out of that time. So yeah, of course, we had I also had some difficult times. And I had also during Stefan's time, I had some people which I had to supervise, which were difficult, yeah. But let's be honest, that's also the excitement about the job, to adapt to these whole different characters, yeah, and these different nationalities with all their different cultural attitudes and so on. That's the exciting thing about the job. That's what I like.
You're an extremely positive. I'm an extremely positive person too, but I think sometimes, as you say, sometimes it doesn't work and you have to go your own ways.
Yeah.
I find that really, like I failed. You know, I've not been able to get through. I've not been able to change more.
Yeah, it happened to me as well. Happened to me, and it was a tough time. It was a rough time for all of us, and but you learn out of that as well. I did mistakes back then, to be honest. I did mistakes, yeah. Yeah, but you learn out of it, and next time you can do it better. And one thing I learned out of this is always trust your gut feeling. Yeah? If you hire a new person or you hire somewhere else, and you have something, just even if it's a tiny little thing in your gut, and you feel something is wrong, don't do it. That's my advice I can give everybody, because that's my experience. The moment I still did something, although my gut feeling said it's not 100% right. It didn't get a disaster, but sometimes it got a disaster, or it was just not going well.
Yeah,
that's what I try to listen to.
Yeah, because people can interview, they can rehearse interviews, but there is, you do have to get on with your colleagues, and you do have to be on a similar wavelength to especially in the research lab. You know, I think it's slightly different to an office environment, not completely, but you have to bounce off each other. Yeah, I think that's, you've got to be on a similar wavelength to bounce.
Yeah, exactly. But not everybody is on the same wavelength. And now getting these people together as well, or you get them working in such a way that they don't interact too much. That's what you have to do sometimes as well. You have to get certain people not to interact too much, because they are just not on the same wavelength. Let's be honest, not everybody can be on the same wavelengths, and that's why it's, and you don't force things, and you can't, you can't get a group, such a large group, and you've seen the group picture, and especially with all the bachelor students, master students, and so on. At the German university, it's growing so quickly, and that's one mistake, for example, I would say I've made. It grew too quickly, and then Corona came and so on. That was difficult, but not everybody can get along, yeah, and that's why you can't create something that is full of harmony. But you can give people self-assurance and motivation, and when they have that, I think even small disbalances get along with it.
How do you cope with those stressful times? What do you do? How do you relax back at home?
How do I relax?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes I had difficulties relaxing, because there were the kids, especially now with Corona. Yeah. Then there was homeschooling. I was the teacher.
So these are your children.
Yeah, they are the two. That's a younger one. Yeah. They are a little bit older now. Yeah. But we are in the mountains there. Yeah. And this older? Yeah. This is my wife and my two girls. So I'm surrounded by girls. Yeah. Yeah, of course, I relax a lot with them. Yeah. I enjoy being around with them, and I wish I could be more. I mean, I missed a lot during my Oxford time, because I wasn't there during the week. Yeah, but I enjoy a lot with being around with them.
That's true, because I guess maybe one advantage of Corona is you weren't traveling every weekend.
No,
and you
exactly.
And even though you got to Jena, you didn't have to go as often.
I was traveling a lot. I was enjoying going also on conferences and stuff like this, and I changed that a little bit. I'm not traveling so much anymore. I'm cutting this down a lot. Also because being a German university professor with all this lecturing going on, and so you don't have the time. You just don't have.
How do you find balancing your lecturing with research?
Last semester was a catastrophe. It was too much lecturing and hardly research, to be honest. And that's why you need a good team. Somebody has to do the science. Yeah? And the lab is working slowly. And that's why I often do it like this. I have 1 or 2 days a week where people know that's where we have meetings from morning till evening. And then I talk to everybody, I don't know, 30 minutes to 45 to an hour or something like this. And one after the other and so on. I'm done for the day at the end of the day. But I enjoy it because it's science. It's not bureaucracy. It's not grants. Yeah, it's not, although I enjoy lecturing. It's fun. Trying to get stuff in the right order so you picture yourself, do they understand this? Yeah? Trying to teach, I mean, this is clearly trying to teach people stat microscopy who didn't hear about microscopy before. Yeah? And then slowly getting there, why is there the diffraction limit and stuff like this? Just had another exam this morning where we asked about this. What do you see? I asked him then, we slowly went to super resolution, and then I asked them, because it's a lecture, fifth semester, fifth term on biophysical methods. And one part is, of course, optical microscopy. And then I asked them, so if I say stat microscopy, what do you see? What do you see? And one guy even, he said, I see a donut. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. But then I know that, but they were pretty good. They caught it very well. But of course, then also in these biophysical lectures, I built in very current stuff like viruses, immune system and stuff like this, because we do a little research on viruses and so on. And that was received very, very well. And talking about vaccines and so on. And I mean, you know, in Germany, the discussion about vaccination was much more, let's say, intense, especially in the media and so on.
No,
it was very important. And I tried to get the people to a certain level where they could easily, even as non-experts, as physicists, could see if they've seen something on the news, whether this is nonsense or whether this could be truth. Yeah. And you can get the people pretty well to that level. And I did also public lectures on that, also in high schools and stuff like this. So can't do more than that. You know. So,
thinking about those 20-year-olds that are in the lectures, the PhDs that you've had, you're going into schools. If I take you back to when you were a child, what did you want to be then? If you were 10?
I didn't know back then. I didn't have any idea. This is usually also how I drive researches. I just let myself flow, yeah, into a certain direction, which is interesting to me. Yeah? And let's be honest, in school, I quickly realized, because my father, he was a teacher in math and chemistry, so I was very good at math, physics, and so on. And I chose because it was easy for me. I understood it, and that's why I went for physics. And then when I thought about, what do I study? Yeah, and I thought math, no, it's too theoretically. And then I ended up studying physics. And even during my physics time, I wasn't really sure, where does this lead me? So I just went on. Just like after my PhD, I went to a biotech company, and then I went back to science, academic science. And
so how many of your current lab are physicists? How many biologists?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, of course, it's a little bit more physicists, although we get more and more biologists, because we have a lot of biology projects, biology-driven projects. And there's, for example, Katarina from my group, Katarina Riglinski, who has been with me also in Oxford already, and she always says, we need more biologists and so on. And she's kind of building up a small biology hub there and so on. But what you can see also, due to my biophysics lectures, those people that join the biophysics lectures, yeah, a lot of them ask, hey, can we work in your lab for a while, or can we do bachelor and so on, because they enjoy seeing life science applications of physics, yeah, and that combined with physics. And there are certain people that like that. Yeah? Of course, not all physicists, which would, of course, be terrible if everybody would love that. So,
how did you find going from physics into the life science world? Because that's a
Life-
big difference.
Yeah, but fluorescence microscopy, let's be honest. What's the main application
yeah.
of fluorescence microscopy? It's life. And as I said, the main drive was with Evotech. Because I went to Evotech, there was a lot of technology development there. But of course, the application was high throughput screening and so on. Back then, still in vitro mostly, but they started then cells. And then when I went with Stefan, yeah, of course, it was kind of a jump back, yeah. But we realized, okay, we can show it so much on beads and so on, but we need to show it on biology. So we showed all this cell biology, these cell images and so on. But at the end, yeah, we showed it works, but to really show the people that it's valuable, you have to test it in a good environment with real biomedical application. That's why when I got this offer from Oxford to build up a facility in a biomedical, in a medical environment, what a fantastic opportunity. That's kind of what I was waiting for. And I remember over the years, I got a lot of offers because, of course, super resolution was big. And a person that was at that level, yeah, like me in Stefan's group, of course, people wanted me somewhere, yeah. And then I went to Oxford, and it was too medical for me. And this guy, he persuaded me, just come by, take a look. And I was there, and suddenly I realized exactly what I was just talking about. This is an opportunity, yeah. And I went back, and I remember then having a meeting on one weekend even with Stefan, and I showed him the brochure of this institute of the WIM, yeah. And before, he always said, no, Christian, stay with me. You're better off here. He looked, and I remember this, he looked through there 5 minutes, we didn't talk at all. Yeah? And then he took the brochure, put it on the table, looked me in the eyes and said, Christian, you have to do this. And that's how I went to Oxford.
And good advice.
Yeah, that's why he was always good advice. Also now, I mean, we don't talk that much anymore, but from time to time still, and it's always very, very good.
I'm going to change tack and ask you some quick fire questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So, are you an early bird or night owl?
Yeah. What again? Early bird
or night owl?
Oh, night owl.
Night owl?
Yeah.
PC or Mac?
PC.
Okay. McDonald's or Burger King?
Burger King. You know why? Because my daughter has celiac disease, and Burger King is much easier with celiac disease. So that's why I go to Burger King.
What's your favorite food? If you were to be invited out for food, what would be your favorite food?
Chinese food. I love Chinese food.
Okay. And what would be the worst food that someone could serve you?
Certain German foods I grew up, which I just would say, oh, don't leave me with this. Which I don't like mustard. I don't like mustard. So it's anything with that. And there was this food. It was boiled eggs with potatoes and a mustard sauce. And the whole house was smelling for that. It's awful. People love it. I just hate it. And even if I smell mustard today,
that's a good answer. I can understand why. Coffee or tea?
Rather tea, but in principle, none of them. I like to drink water and in the good pints. Yeah.
Oh, wow. The next question was wine or beer?
Beer. I grew up in the north of Germany. That's beer country. So.
You
have to ask ale or lager.
Well, I was going to ask, so German beer or British ale?
Sorry, German beer. I had my difficulties. I remember at the beginning in Oxford, Chris Lagerhorn, he really tried hard on me. We had any kind of lager, ale. Yeah, he tried every ale on me. And it's just too sweet for me. It's too sweet. I like this really bitter beer, yeah, but not sweet. There's always a sweet taste to these ales. Although I love to go in a UK pub, I always enjoyed it. Yeah? Also back then when my brother did his PhD in London, we had hilarious nights in London. But I never got used to the ale.
Yeah, I've got to say, actually, some of the Oxford pubs there's something about Oxford in their pubs. It's really good, actually. And that's coming from Yorkshire, which
not bad.
It's very good, but it costs a fortune at Oxford for your pints. It's very expensive.
I went once on a pub tour. I don't remember. I visited you guys once, yeah, and these guys took me out. It was a hell of a night. I think I got I had to get up very early in the morning. I was hurt. But we had a very good night then.
Yeah, we do have some very good.
I loved it.
Well.
It was a very good night then.
Chocolate or cheese?
Cheese.
Being your sweetness, I was going to guess cheese anyway. Book or TV?
What's that for the first?
Book or TV?
I love both, to be honest. I love TV to relax, yeah, but I love to read a good book as well. So it's even. It's 50-50, I would say.
Okay. So let's think about this. What sort of books do you read? What sort of genre? What type of book?
I love kind of funny books or something like this. So I often love to. There are some especially German authors that have very, very good way of writing, and I love to read that. So.
Okay. And what sort of TV do you watch?
TV. Now with my girls, I mainly watch streaming. Yeah. I grew up, of course, with normal TV, normal TV stations and so on.
Yeah.
And of course, I try to stay up. I love to watch the news, to be honest. Yeah. But otherwise, I love to watch to relax on a good movie. Yeah. It's just and of course, I'm pretty broad. Yeah. I don't like horrors or something like this, but science fiction, everything. Yeah?
So science fiction, Star Wars or Star Trek? What is your preference, TV or film?
That's a mean one. I don't know. I was a big fan of Star Trek, and I have to admit that recently I looked into the old Star Trek stuff, not the very old one. Yeah? I'm a fan of Jean-Luc, yeah, but I love them, yeah. But Star Wars, it's a good one as well. Yeah?
I'd be more Trek. Have you watched Picard?
I did, but not the second.
I'm watching the second at the moment.
How is it? It's good?
Yeah, good. Yes, good. But I'm watching it with my youngest son, and finding times when we're both together at the same time.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm watching
for an hour that no one else is around.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. That's why we didn't get to the second. But I watched the first one, and there was another show on. I think it was on Amazon. Expanse. Did you watch that?
I don't watch that much, so actually, because
I didn't. But that was during Corona times. I watched a little bit more often because I had to record my lectures at night, and then I had to come down, and then I watched it, and then I watched this Expanse. Good one. If you want to see a good science fiction, Expanse. That's a good one.
You see, I'm not big into science fiction, but Picard and Star Trek, I'll make an exception.
Yeah, Picard and Picard was good. And I want to find the time to look at the second season, but didn't find the time yet.
So, what is your favorite film?
My favorite film?
Yeah.
This is not a science fiction. There are two favorite films. One is Big Lebowski, and the other one is Pulp Fiction. That's my favorite ones. And I had people, like also Erden sometimes, we try to communicate in sentences of Big Lebowski. And you can do that. You can do a whole communication only with sentences from Big Lebowski. And I had this PhD student in Stefan Hell's group, and he was an American, a guy, Brian, and we often talk like that. So.
And okay, so you've got your two favorite films, that's and Pulp Fiction. And what about, do you have a favorite Christmas film?
A favorite Christmas film?
Yeah.
Come on, the Griswolds are always good, aren't they? So that's a good one.
So National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, it's the Griswolds. That's a good one. I love to watch this all the time.
So do you watch it? I was about to say, do you watch it every year with your daughters?
No, not every year, but we watch it often.
It's always good to have something that's sort of the go-to.
Yeah.
Germany or UK?
You feel German. I had a great time in the UK, and I always love to come back there. But it's my home country, so that's why Germany. And sorry about that. I got also a big fan of British football teams and so on. But when Germany plays UK or England, sorry, I have to be for Germany. So. And Germany,
you should be.
Germany got world champion when I was in Oxford, the second year. Yeah, so it was a good one.
Actually, so here's a question. In the UK, the England-German games are probably the biggest game. Yeah, that's our arch rivals in football. Is it the same in Germany? Are we your arch rivals? Did you have a different arch rival?
No. You know what I like about German-England? Of course, it's a big rivalry and it can get nasty. But on the other hand, and that's my feeling all the time, and that's how I know my friends, and that's what I got also in England, is what is so special about Germany against England, that in principle, we respect each other. We know England is good and the English know the Germans are good. Yeah. And that makes it so special. And because in principle, there's a lot of respect. Not like when Germany plays Netherlands. Yeah. That's war. I mean, that's just war. I mean, I don't know why they just hate each other. Yeah. And when it comes to football. Yeah.
Yeah, Christian, I really thought.
But I think Germany against England is more. There's always some kind of respect behind it. That's my feeling.
I really thought you were going to say that respect, that, you know, the Brits know that the Germans are good and the Germans know that they're better than the Brits at football.
No.
I really expected that to come out.
I mean, we got come on. I was kicked by England also a couple of times. So no, we shouldn't be that arrogant. So I think at the moment, I don't know who's the better team at the moment. England has a good team at the moment.
Let's not go there.
Yeah,
I'm going to keep in sports though, because I know that you're not just a keen runner, but a very competitive athlete. And you sent me from. This is obviously not that recent. I can tell by the hair.
No, yeah, I look pretty young there. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. But
what was your distance?
400 hurdles.
400-meter hurdles.
Yeah, and 400 hurdles. And I was pretty high up. So I was at the national track meetings. I even got national student champion once. So I think this is even at that event. I don't know. It might be.
Wow.
Wearing a funny shirt there. So
what was your time then? I'm not very good at 400-meter 100.
Yeah, well, that was just around 52 seconds.
What's the world record at the moment?
That at the moment, come on, they're crazy. They went down to below 47 seconds, but mainly 40.
You're really close. Oh, sorry, 47 and 52, and you're just in the nationals here. That's not far off, is it really? And
yeah, I mean the women, the best women run about that time.
That's just an incredible. You almost said I found these quite entertaining, these pictures. So you sent me pictures of the team.
Yeah, exactly. That was the 4x4 relay. Yes.
I was guessing for the hurdles or just 4x400?
No, but just 4x4. No, there's no relay on 400 hurdles.
4x400. I am looking at the faces here. And this is a group photo. You're all together and no one's smiling.
You know why? Because it was just right after. And you know what is even more sad? I think we got champion there. We got student champions. So yeah. And still we did. This was there we ran a very, very good time. I remember that. And we were just exhausted. There's also another picture. I couldn't find it. I'm laying on the ground. Somebody pictured me from above, and I just look completely exhausted, because let's be honest, from the short exhaustion that you can get. I think 400 hurdles is one of the most cruel ones. I mean, of course, it's not as cruel as running a marathon after 30 kilometers or doing the Tour de France or something like this. But on a short time, it's one of the bad, because the last 100 meters, it's just pain. Let's be honest. It's just pain, because you get so much into the, you so much overdo it and
yeah. and you actually look bigger there than you do now.
Yeah, of course I was bigger there. I had more muscles and stuff like this. And of course, I mean, I did more practice back then. So.
Did you? I've got looking at your teammates. Tell me you ran the first leg.
I did run the first leg.
Yeah, you just look a little less exhausted by
exactly.
now.
I like the others. Yeah, and I think, guess who ran the last one? I don't know. It was I think.
Yeah. Okay, so the one next to you, I presume.
No, it wasn't him. No. The one on the very left. I think he was the last one.
Yeah, also looking ill.
Yeah. But it was a fun team back then. Very good fun team.
So what are you running now?
What's that?
What do you do now for running? You're still running?
I just run my 5 kilometers, half an hour or something like this, just for fun. I even don't take my watch along.
No, I'm sorry, 5 kilometers and 30 minutes. I don't believe you're taking 30 minutes to
do it's maybe it might be 6 kilometers. I don't take the time anymore. And sometimes I feel good, and then I realize, probably it's it's that and that fast. And sometimes, I mean, you must know that as well. Sometimes you just start running and you immediately realize it's going to
take. Yeah, some days it runs easy. Other days it's
exactly. And I take my little daughter along sometimes now.
Ah.
I really have to push her. And these days, I mean, it's pretty hot out here. If I look outside, it's above 30 degrees. But maybe we go for a run later this afternoon, this evening.
And did she enjoy it?
I don't know. But I just take her along, and she's staying with it. So let's see. No, but I don't. I did 15 years of competitive sports. I don't need any competition anymore. I just do it for fun. I do my exercises for my back and for my muscles a little bit and so on. But I'm not doing it so serious. And you ask myself, when do you relax? That's one moment when I relax. Yeah. I always, when I go to conferences, I always have my running shoes along. Peter, I bet you too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So fun exploring cities or something like this. For example, when I was in New York, I was giving a talk there. I went with the subway somewhere so I could run in the Hyde Park, which is always in the movies, you know. And then I was running and along this path which you see in the movie. And nowadays, when I watch something with my kids, I say, hey, that's where I ran as well. So and that's what I and often, for example, when there was one conference in Bordeaux or something like this, and I just ran through the whole old city of Bordeaux and got to know it. I completely got lost. I remember that. I got so lost and I didn't know where I was. And I was exhausted. And it was far above 30 minutes and it was 30 degrees. And I think I was at 45 minutes and I didn't have anything to drink. And then I looked at some bus plan. And then I realized, okay, I have to go into this direction.
Yeah, I've only got lost twice in cities and it's not a good feeling. I think I was actually first up to give a talk on the morning of getting lost at one of them. I thought, I'm now in real trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I often go for a run in front of my talks, but then I take it easy.
It's not, yeah, it's
but there's one thing. There's one thing about competition, yeah. When you have competition, yeah, I mean, you run, especially during summertime, you run every weekend, and I mean, you are nervous like crazy, yeah, and that's why I can very good or very well scope with being nervous, yeah, being excited and so on. So I could when I did do my studies, my tests and so on, I could scope with this very, very easily because I got to know this from competition. And of course, you can also, I mean, with competition, you learn to go really beyond your limits. Yeah, just like you with your marathon, you go beyond your limits. And yeah, sometimes in science you have to measure, or you have to do a lot of stuff. And so, and this is one of the guys, of the four guys there, who's also we once discussed, and he said, yeah, you know, there's one disadvantage: we go beyond our limits. We don't see the limits, yeah, and sometimes it's not good because you overstress yourself and so on. And we are at an age where we really have to watch out that we don't burn out. That's what I realized, and that's why I have to look out for that. And that's why, for example, with running, I enjoy it. Every time I run and I come home and I feel good, and then I feel more motivated to do work or other things. Or next week I'm going for 4 days hiking with my younger daughter into the mountains here in Germany. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
That would be good. You mentioned running and conferences, and you sent a couple of pictures. So this is, I'm guessing, I can read it there. It's a second meeting of the Super Resolution User Club.
Was it? Yeah, it was. Yeah. It's a little bit unclear. I'm I'm somewhere in the corner there. Yeah. There was a Stockholm.
Do you know what? For me, the screen is really small. But anyway, so these meetings are really important, and you have another picture which
this was the big event from PicoQuant. This was I love to go to this PicoQuant meeting, yeah, because it was one of my first meetings where I gave a big talk as a PhD student, and then I was invited there on the anniversary meeting here. And look at all the people who are there. I mean, yeah, there's Stefan in front of me. There is Myrna. Everybody is there, yeah. And I was invited as well. I felt so honored. It was great, yeah. And it was the first big meeting where I gave my talk, and I remember I was giving a talk about photo bleaching and so on, and Dick Keller and these guys were sitting there. That's when I was nervous. There I was nervous, and here I am. I'm invited to the anniversary. Great event.
I've got to say, I don't want to offend anyone, but you look significantly younger than most there.
Yeah, but
I do put the word most.
yeah, but most of them are older than me. Let's be honest. So
Yeah.
I mean, who's roughly of the same? Johan Hofkens, maybe. I think he's only 1 or 2 years older than me. But the rest is a little bit older. Yeah.
So you see, sort of just, you know, how you developed your own name, your own developed, that you are there amongst, you know, not peers necessarily. They're a generation.
Yeah, but and that's, I remember when I was once sitting on, yeah, we were sitting, we were organizing. I was organizing together with Jörg Beversdorf. I was organizing this. There's always a big schools, yeah, from the German Physical Society, and that is in their headquarters, which is at the Rhine River in a beautiful place, yeah, near Bonn, yeah. And Jörg and I were asked to organize such a school. So we invited all the people, and we were sitting there in the evening, realizing we made it. Yeah, we made it. We are asked, and it's only us who've been asked. Not that because I organized schools there before, but I was kind of the working guy behind Stefan. Yeah. Now we did, and even one evening, I remember Stefan called me and he said, "Hey, I would have time to come by tonight, giving a talk." Yeah. And then I told everybody, "Hey, we have to delay the beers for another hour. I have a surprise guest tonight." That's a great thing. And then suddenly Stefan walked in. For these students that joined it was of course a great thing. And that's where I realized, yeah, you made it. But of course I had good teachers, yeah, with Klaus Seidel, Stefan, and so on. I had good people that already had their name in the field and promoted me as well. So I have to thank them a lot.
So I've got a question I don't think I've ever asked a guest before, and I should have asked them all, because I think this will be interesting. So I think it will be more split than most listeners would actually think. When you retire, will you retire, or will you want that emeritus status and carry on dabbling in the background?
I don't know. I cannot say for sure. When you would have asked me during maybe Oxford times or Stefan Hell's times, when we did a lot of research and so on, I would have said, I slowly retire. I try to keep research running as much. Oh, where I have to do so much bureaucracy, so much administration and so on. I sometimes, of course, because you are close to burning out, yeah, you just think, I stop immediately and I just do my hiking or enjoy life. Yeah, and I can't tell you yet. I don't know how it develops and so on. We'll see. We'll see. In Germany, it's more strict than in other countries. Yeah, so when you reach your retirement age, usually maybe you do 1 or 2 more years of teaching, and only people like Max Planck directors like Stefan or something like this kind of stick in there. But that's, I don't know. I can't tell you. We'll see. I have to see. At the moment, because the last 2 years have really been tough, I have to say. And there were a lot of not so joyful times also, but of course, this is also because of all the incidences that happened. I would say I would stop, just enjoy life. But who knows what I say in a couple of years. Because the lab is running, we're producing new data and so on. Because of course, there's clearly going to be a dip for me during Corona times. Because of course, this is also because the stuff from Oxford, I just talked to my postdoc this morning. One last paper out of Oxford Times will come out because we did a couple of measurements and that's done now. That's the last one out of Oxford Times. And now Jena is picking up. But of course, this transition somehow got delayed due to Corona because we couldn't work on this so well. So I will have a really dip. And during Corona times, due to my homeschooling and so on, I wasn't that effective.
I did say time would go fast, and we are just coming up to the hour mark already. You sent me one more picture that I have to show because I thought this was kind of cool.
Yeah,
so this is your Lego group.
Yeah. This was an idea of Francesco Reina from my group because we couldn't go out there. We weren't allowed together. Yeah, and then he had the idea. Okay, I'm getting all these Lego people. Yeah, and they look and make them look alike some persons in the group. Yeah, and then I place them or Photoshop them in front of the famous Abbe monument. Yeah, and I love this. I often show this at the end of my talks.
So it's not, is it the same crew as this?
Just before Corona. This was a couple of people were already in Jena, but most of them were still in Oxford. But we made a retreat and I showed them Jena, because I knew some of them people will come to Jena at some point. And we had a fantastic 3 days in Jena, enjoying science, but also drinking and stuff like this, or touring around and so on. And we made a group picture there in front of the monument.
Is this crowd easier or the Lego crowd easier?
Of course, let's be honest, the crowd before was easier because it was real, yeah. The other one was doing Corona times, but still I love the idea of Francesco there. And that's why when I found this picture, I thought, I have to send it to Peter.
It is a really good one. We are up to the hour, Christian, and actually I haven't covered a lot of ground, but do you know what? It's been great talking.
It's been great. I enjoyed it. Unbelievable that we already have an hour here. I bet we could go on for another hour without noticing it. So.
We'll just have to a part 2 at some point.
More than happy to do that.
For all those that have watched, listened, please don't forget to subscribe. Go back. You know, there are some good guests coming up, which we've heard about today. Some guests that we've heard about that are already recorded that you've heard from Christian today. But Christian, it's been really good to hear your energy is enthusiastic. You know, your energy, your upbeat, your positivity, I think is brilliant. And long may that continue. Christian?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Peter. It's been great. I love talking to you. And so hope to see you in person soon. And then you take your ale and I take my German beer, my lager, okay?
I'll tell you, a couple of weeks' time.
Yes.
Christian, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to The Microscopists, a bite-sized bio podcast sponsored by Zeiss Microscopy. To view all audio and video recordings from this series, please visit bitesizebio.com/the-microscopists.